So here we have Lisa's delicious peanut soup, and I'm going to try some of it. I can see that it's got little chunks of peanuts, which I've had before in this, and they're fantastic. And today is no exception. And cashews on top, it makes a great garnish. It's good on any kind of a day, but today we have a few thunder showers, and it seems particularly appropriate. And that's Lisa's peanut soup.
Well, today we're going to learn how to make that soup that John just tasted. It's called Charleston Peanut Soup. The important things to have to make this are 1 medium onion, 1 medium sweet potato, and we're going to have 4 cups of chicken broth. And if you don't have fresh chicken stock, then I have a product here which I will show you, a broth base, and that's what I use to make the chicken broth if I don't have fresh. And you want about half a jar of peanut butter. I use the crunchy because it has more real peanuts floating around in it that you use in the soup. A pinch of salt, and I use walnut oil. You can use peanut oil, but walnut kind of gives it more of a nutty flavor. The peanut kind of just blends in with the other peanuts. So we're going to start off by chopping up a medium onion. And this is the first ingredient along with the walnut oil. If you're not good at chopping onions, or you don't have a food processor, or you don't like using any of those kinds of things, I have a little gadget that I use. It's easier with my hands. My chopping skills aren't very good because of hand issues, getting old. So I just use this double-bladed. You can get this at like a Asian cooking store. You just rock it around like this. You want to chop them medium to small. We're going to end up putting this in a blender, so it's not important exactly the size that you chop them, but the smaller you chop them, the faster they're going to cook in the pan. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some chicken broth. I'm not using real chicken stock today. I don't have any left over from anything else I've done, so I'm going to use this broth base. And I'm going to make 4 cups. And I mix it in with warm water instead of cold. It doesn't lump that way. We use 4 cups of the stock, and it's really important that it's 4 cups. Because we're going to end up putting this soup in the blender, and if you have too much and you try to put the cap on and go ahead and blend it, you will end up with peanut soup all over your kitchen. So we're going to mix that up here. Okay, we're going to get ready to start the soup in the pan now. We're going to go ahead and turn it on high. And we're going to use a little bit of walnut oil. And like I said, this is better than peanut oil. The peanut just blends with the peanut butter, but walnut oil gives it a much meatier, nutty kind of taste. And then we're going to add the chopped onions. The smaller that you chop the onions, the faster this is going to go. You don't want to brown them. We're just going to make them where they're translucent. kind of soften them. Just let those kind of cook there in the oil. Might take, maybe, depending on how hot your stove gets and what kind of pan you're using, it could take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. But once you start hearing them sizzle, and you don't want them to brown, so you just stir them for a while. Okay, you can hear the onions now. They're starting to sizzle. So you want to just kind of mix them around in there so they don't brown at all. If you can smell them in the room, they're about ready to do something else with now, which is what we're going to do. Now the next step is the bizarre part. You don't expect this to happen with onions, but we're going to add the peanut butter. And when you add the peanut butter, you really can't let this sit. You have to immediately start stirring it, and it starts melting. You turn your heat down to about medium at that point. You really don't want to burn the peanut butter. And you just start stirring this around in the onions. And I don't know whether to say that looks delicious or not. Peanut butter with onions is kind of strange. And when you taste the final soup, you'll just be amazed at how smooth of a peanut taste there is. But there's a whole onion in here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead now. That's pretty much stirred up with all the onions, and you can see the smooth, creamy part on the pan. I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 cups of chicken stock into this. I'm going to stir it so that the onions and peanut butter mix up good in that. And the next thing we're going to do is add the sweet potatoes. These are the sweet potatoes we cut earlier. And go ahead and add those into the pot. Turn up the heat a little bit more. Add just a pinch of salt. I'm using coarse ground sea salt. And then we're going to cover it and go ahead and leave your lid where you can have a little bit of vent while it's cooking. And we're going to let those sweet potatoes cook to where they're soft. Okay, I've put my blender top in the sink just in case we have any accidents, which I hope not. And we're going to take this entire mixture and pour it into the blender. And you want to make sure it's a good 1/2 inch under the lid. And using the quantities that I described, you shouldn't have any problem with that. But in case you have a different size blender or something, you want to make sure of that. You don't want this hot mixture exploding all over you. So we're just going to start out with a low chop. Always hold the top. Speed it up slowly. And then off, if you know where the off button is. And then off. And at this point, okay, now we're ready to pour it back into the pan. You can see the creamy soup. And you put it back on the stove until you're ready to serve. And you should be able to keep the lid on it and warm until you're ready to serve. But if not, and if you need to heat it up, just do not go any higher than the lowest of low that your stove will allow you to do, so you don't brown it and burn it. Now we're ready to serve. We haven't done anything else to it except keep it warm. You can see the consistency of it. And we're going to garnish it now for serving. And you can use peanuts, or these are raw cashews. And just make sure you have some chopped. You can even use chopped peanuts that you buy that are already chopped for desserts and things like that. Just a little bit of cayenne pepper, unless you have an aversion to that. And just kind of sprinkle it over the top. And sprinkle your nuts in the very center. And it's ready to serve. And soup's on.